How's everybody doing? Energy is in the room. We can feel it. It's beautiful. We're talking about leadership in SA. And what a moment to be talking about it. I think David Roberts this morning gave us a pretty telling presentation, speaking about somebody needs to step up and lead and create a group and do things about this problem, or we're basically standing there as bystanders as we're watching the ship go down while the water's going through the boat, thinking we're not going to be affected. That was Mkhalisi's metaphor. He just told me in the back. So I'd like to ask you, we're with Priya, Bonang, and Mkhalisi. Priya, if you could just take 1 minute to introduce yourself and give us a little bit of context to who you are.
Sure. So my name is Priya Daya. I am chair of Values 20 South Africa. Values 20 is in fact a global organization. It was founded in 2020 in Saudi Arabia. And the intention of this group is to create an awareness of the convening role of values in our society, right? The convening role of values. So instead of orientating in the more negative narratives that surround us, we are looking at saying, who are you being? What is important to you, and are you living those values? And so Values 20 South Africa accepted the chair from Values 20 Brazil during the latter part of last year, and I was appointed the chair. Our co-chair is Tabia Tashane, and we appointed Professor Bonang Mohale as our Sherpa. We have about 70 people working in the background. We prepared a communique for the G20 outlining our values recommendations, and we have a very enthusiastic advocacy team that has worked very hard to create an awareness of values during the course of this year.
Thanks so much for that. And tell me, Bonang, what does the Sherpa do?
My name is Bonang Mohale. I'm the Chancellor of the University of the Free State. So the Sherpa is a Tibetan word. These are the people who are servants.
Yeah.
They take the people who want to submit up the mountain because they've done it 20 times in that week.
Wow.
But they carry their baggage. They
Yeah.
carry their food.
Yeah.
They make sure that they don't get lost, that they go safely, but they come back safely too.
Okay. Thanks for that. And now, Mkhalisi, when I said to Mkhalisi, listen, we're going to do a panel discussion, he said to me, listen, Shane, I got to give context to this B20. You can't ask me questions. I got to first set the framework. And we said, Mkhalisi, but it's going to be a panel discussion. But listen, if you know Mkhalisi, he said, this is not actually a debate. So Mkhalisi, would you please take to the podium and introduce yourself and deliver your context setting.
Thank you very much, Shane. My name is Mkhalisi Mgojo. I wear a number of hats. President of the Business Unit of South Africa, one of the co-leads between the business and government partnership, and I co-lead the effort and the work that business is partnering with government on solving the Transport and Logistics Crisis Committee. So we are busy trying to get Transnet fixed, structural reforms that are taking place. So we've done that with the energy side. So if you see getting electricity nonstop, that's part of that team that's working on that work. But also, I'm also party. There's the V20 and then there's the B20, and we are the business side of what the V does, but from a business point of view in terms of the recommendation. So I co-chair that. So I felt that it's very important for me to really get a setting about what this B20 is really about, because everything that we're talking about here, at the end of the day, is going to be impacted by a lot of structural reforms, policies that have to be implemented, that have recommendations that have got to come and be implemented, that are supporting everything that we are trying to talk to and trying to achieve here today. So it really, for me, it is an honor to be with you today. We meet at an incredible, remarkable moment, and in just about 3 weeks from now, South Africa will be hosting the B20 summit for the first time on the African soil. And when we applause are over, visitors return home, this is when our real work will begin. Turning commitments into action and action into enduring investment opportunities. So why does the B20 matter? Let's start with the obvious but powerful truth. B20 matters because it is the first to be hosted on African soil. But its importance runs deeper than geography. It's about priorities and perspectives. 2 years ago, under India's presidency, Africa appeared as an addendum with a paper that was entitled African Economic Integration and Agenda for Global Business. This time we are not an addendum, we are the agenda. That is a historical shift. It means Africa is no longer a policy afterthought. We are shaping global growth conversations, embedding our challenges, opportunities, and innovations at the center of the world's economic architecture. That is not symbolism, that's substance. As we step into this leadership role at a moment of enormous global transition, where their trade tensions are fragmenting supply chains, the energy transition is accelerating, creating new winners and losers. Artificial intelligence is rewriting the rules of productivity, and demand for Africa's natural resources, our land, our minerals, and our energy is intensifying. This convergence actually puts Africa and South Africa in a position of strategic power. No longer passive suppliers of commodities, but active architects of new industrial value chains. We are not asking to be included. We are defining the terms of engagement. And our message is simple. Africa seeks growth that creates value here in jobs, in skills, and in ownership, and no one should be left behind. South Africa's business community carries a special responsibility in this moment. Our role is twofold. First, to showcase our excellence. We have proven that South African business can deliver with world-class capability, integrity, and innovation. Look at what we've achieved through the business-government partnerships that I've indicated and the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producer Program. These are not theoretical frameworks. They are working examples of collaboration, execution, and global standard governance. Secondly, to shape the message, the B20 gives us a direct line to the G20, to global investors, development finance institutions, and governments, including our own. Our message must be clear, focused, and actionable. And so, what are we saying to the G20? We have 3 core actions that we are calling for. First, we can't do everything at once. Let's double down on the few high-impact levers that can move the needle: digital transformation, agriculture, and critical minerals. But none of these will thrive without fixing the fundamentals: water, power, transport, logistics, and clean governance. Secondly, prioritize growth paths. Choose practical, implementable priorities. Ask hard questions. Where will South Africa position itself in the global critical minerals boom? How do we use technology to drive competitiveness rather than catch up? And thirdly, act decisively. We have a narrow window, months, not years, to engage investors, DFIs, and strategic partners. We have a technical playbook. Now we need executional courage. But our ambition must be extending beyond our borders. This is not only about South Africa, it's about Africa's collective ascent. By 2050, 1 in 4 people on the earth will be African. The African Continental Free Trade Area already represents 3.4 trillion market, the largest free trade area in the world. This question is not whether Africa will grow. It is how we shape that growth to serve our people. We take inspiration from peers. India, during its B20 presidency, showcased domestic innovation while developing global ties. Now it's Africa's turn to demonstrate our innovation, our resilience, our leadership. We must use the B20 platform to connect African innovators to global markets, attract sustainable long-term capital, and build value chains that create prosperity here and at home. B20 can, must, and become the bridge between Africa excellence and global opportunity. But colleagues, let's be honest, the success of this B20 will not be measured by elegance of our communique, but by the results we deliver. Success will be measured in new investments, resilient business, and high-quality jobs. It's not about how we speak, it's about how effectively we build. And lastly, it is our moment to lead differently, with clarity, conviction, and collaboration. Let's focus on what truly matters. Let's be bold. Let's make bold choices that move our economy forward. Let's build partnership that bring confidence and credibility to Africa's story. Because the world is watching, Africa, and is our time now. The B20 legacy will not be in the words we speak, but in the movement we create. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Mkhulisi. It was very powerful. Priya, can you give us a bit more context on the V20, what it represents, and why it's significant from a people and values perspective?
Sure. So just to start this context here, earlier we had David talking to us about some of the challenges that we're facing. We cannot take these challenges lightly. But at the same time, we cannot be overwhelmed by them. Because if we remain steeped in what's going wrong, then it impedes our momentum to move ahead in the way that we need to. So the role of V20 South Africa is really about saying, how do we start creating a different kind of narrative for ourselves? And this is why Values 20 South Africa, our focus is on creating what we call living values. Right? So this is our action plan. It's our statement of intent. And after the G20, we will be continuing with this agenda under the organization called Living Values. So what is living values? Very simply, what is important to you? Are you living that? Are you showing that through your behavior? That certainly, as our dear sir from the B20 was telling us, there's incredible imperatives that we need to undertake in order to see a different future for our country. But how is that enacted? Behaviorally. And that's what the V20 agenda is about.
Thanks so much for that. Bonang, just building on that, you've spoken a lot about leadership. How would you define leadership through the lens of a V20 context?
So values are the lighthouse, the North Star, that at the moment where you're confronted with dilemmas, you go back to your values, and then it helps you to take decisions. This is Johnson & Johnson, when they discover that one of their employees have actually put in ground glass in some of their analgesics, and they decide to pull the whole lot. This is what and how you and I were brought up by our grandparents.
Yeah.
That if somebody takes you out to dinner, at the very least, pay your part of the bill. If somebody else takes you out and say, I'm paying, please don't choose the most expensive thing on the menu. This is about playing with other children, not next to other children.
Right.
And it ends up by saying, please don't take things that don't belong to you. So 31 years into democracy, South Africa is in a spot of bother. Because those who call themselves our leaders have succumbed to greed. They have stolen more than what they've invested. First 5 years of state capture, they've stolen 1.5 trillion South African rands. That's 2/3 of what Edward Kieswetter collects from you and I and businesses. In the 9 wasted years, We have siphoned off, on average, 200 billion just to the 2 Zupta families. So values of honesty, respect, and integrity are universal.
Yeah.
They don't even need to be explained.
Thank you for that, Bonang. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. Mkhulisi, I'd like to ask you a personal question. I don't know if, for those of you in the audience, don't know, I met Mkhulisi in 2016. We were actually in San Francisco together. We didn't know each other, and we landed up in San Francisco at the Singularity executive program. And I remember Mkhulisi pulling me aside, and we were aside, and he went, man, in this world, anything is possible. You remember that? He said that to me. Anyway, he was the CEO of Exara, and I mean, he was a very accomplished CEO, and he's done a tremendous amount for the country in his time. And now I see you told me yesterday or the day before that you're busier than ever. You're busier than when you worked for Exara. Personally, why do you do this?
Yeah, I guess it's a conversation that I had to have with my wife. Why did we do this? Because I had to make sure that we are doing it together. My grandchildren, my children, it's their future. You can't sit on the side and pretend that things are hunky-dory when you see that they are not hunky-dory, and think that by sitting on the side, things will be better for the generations to come. Today, as bad as it is, we are eating off the fruits of those who planted seeds 40, 50 years ago. And we are harvesting that today. And the question is, what seeds are we going to plant today that our children and our grandchildren and the future generations are going to harvest? Because for each of us, each generation, it needs to plant something so that the future can have something of value and substance, so that they can continue planting. So it's about these values, about your responsibility of why you are here today. And part of that is about how best you harvest what you have today and be stewards of what you have today, but at the same time, planting for the generations to come. That's why I'm here today.
I love it, I love it, I love it. I love it. So, Priya, just moving over to you. I don't know what David Roberts was going to say this morning. We sort of knew a bit of the context, but we didn't exactly know the actual tonal structure of that presentation, and it made me feel very uncomfortable. And you were saying in the back there that you wanted to give a standing ovation because it almost like context exactly what you're doing. Could you just expand on that a bit?
Sure. Sometimes when something just moves you deeply, that's exactly what happened for me this morning when David was speaking. And I'm really looking forward to his presentation tomorrow on suffering. For me, Shane, what we need to be doing now, when we look from a values perspective and we look at the situation that we are facing, there's a sense of, are we conscious in this very moment? Are we present in this very moment? Are we actually observing our reality? Or are we unconscious passengers on the bus? I think part of what became quite apparent for me this morning as David was speaking is more often than not, we are passengers. And when we are passengers, that doesn't put us in a proactive position to shift things. And so behaviorally, we need to become more conscious in order to make the change that we want.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And Bonang, moving over to you. You spoke about, the government's stolen all this money and there's crime and corruption and, we need to do these things. How do we practically get involved and stop some of this stuff?
Practically.
Practically.
You see, the Stone Age did not end because men ran out of stone. It ended because we found more effective and efficient ways of doing things.
Yeah.
It's not so much that we have inherited this world from our forebears as we have borrowed it from our children. Therefore, it behooves us to live it in a state on a composite basis that is substantially better than we found it in. I'm a business person. So and charity like Clarity begins at home. Business employs 16.5 million people. Government employs 1.3 million people. So if business is transformed, South Africa is transformed.
Yeah.
Imagine if we as business people didn't talk platitudes about gender equality and pay parity, but that we delivered social justice by paying women the same as we pay men for work of equal value. Imagine for a moment if we didn't hold lectures about paying small and medium enterprises in 30 days, but we actually pay them in 7 days. Because to them, cash flow is the difference between life and death.
Yes, yes.
Imagine for a moment if we as business people said, not on our watch. Because business is the only one of the 4 social partners, government, labor, civil society, that understand this concept of project management, how to deliver mega projects on time, in full, and with absolute budget. We will then have not waited 16.5 years to end load shedding first. Because remember, it started in February of 2008.
Yeah.
And the difference is just 6 gigawatts.
Right.
Because at the height, the demand is 32 gigawatts.
Right.
We don't even deliver 27. So how do we look ourselves in the mirror and say we are ready to lead the whole of South Africa when we can't solve a 6 gigawatt problem in 16.5 years?
Ladies and gentlemen, join me in standing for these amazing people. Please, give them a round of applause. They don't need this. They're doing it for the love of the country. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you.